Hello and welcome to Star News Bulletin on Star Television, Channel 21. I am Alima Samara. First, the headlines. The Civil Society Working Group on Elections and Human Rights has published its findings and recommendations on the monitoring of the rural and parliamentary election at the Constituency 110.
Calculated and conscious attempt by political parties to buy elections, to buy votes. They were engaging people, telling them that we'll give you 50,000 euros if you go and cast your vote for candidate A or B.
Presidents and stakeholders of NJIANA, SEWAFE, NINEYANA CHIEFDOM, Kano District, calls on the government of President Julius to improve their livelihoods in that part of the country.
We need agriculture. We need to make government embarking on agriculture because the land where we get now, the land's too empty.
As Sierra Leone investigates 3 suspected polio cases, officials from the Ministry of Health have said 3 cases of what they believe is acute placid paralysis were reported in 3 districts of KAMBIA, TONKOLILI, and Western Area Rural.
Sierra Leone investigates 3 poliovirus cases, isolates poliovirus type 2.
The Ministry of Lands, together with its partners, have engaged parliamentarians on a 2-day high-level roundtable discussion on the draft of the Land Commission and customary land bills.
The system of land acquisition and that in the western urban and that of the rural is different. So I was trying to see how we can harmonize, if possible, harmonize both, and giving powers to land committees.
Please read the headlines. And now the news in detail. As a way of complementing the efforts of the National Electoral Commission in conducting free, fair and credible elections in the country, the Civil Society Working Group on Elections and Human Rights has published its findings and recommendations on the monitoring of the rural and parliamentary election at Constituency 110. Elijah Wage reports.
While speaking in a press conference held at 4th Street, Thomas Mokonte, National Coordinator of Civil Society Working Group on Elections on Human Rights, said the findings on the monitoring of the rerun parliamentary election at Constituency 110 was put up by 30 civil society organizations who formed the Working Group on Elections and Human Rights. He continued by stating the general observations and findings during polling.
Constituency 110, GODERICH, by the Civil Society Working Group on Elections and Human Rights, Sierra Leone. Background. On the 1st of December 2020, a group of civil society activists met and agreed to form a civil society working group on elections and human rights in Sierra Leone in a bid to complement the effort of the National Electoral Commission and other partners in conducting free, fair, and credible elections in the country. A memorandum of agreement and terms of reference were further developed as legal and regulatory frameworks to guide the operation of the working group. Also, a steering committee was installed to superintend the affairs of the working group. As at the time of this report, the membership of the working group is comprised of 30 different civil society organizations. Objectives and mandates of the working group. The objectives and mandates of the working group are as follows. 1. To monitor and ensure free, fair, transparent and credible elections in Sierra Leone. 2. To raise awareness and sensitization on elections and electoral processes in Sierra Leone. 3. To lobby and advocate for increased support to the National Electoral Commission and elections management bodies. 4. To engage in observation, report writing, and documentation of findings on elections and human rights in Sierra Leone.
Thomas Mokonte added that even though the election was free and fair, it was, however, not free from fear, as there were challenges which the working group observed during the polling. Some of these challenges include the over-securitization of the electoral process and unaccredited government officials using vehicles with no number plates bulldozed their way into some voting centers,
which had to do with some voters caught taking snapshots of their voting slips for a consideration of 50,000 leones. When apprehended by the police, some of them confessed to have been sent by political stalwarts to do the said act. This was the case in other polling centers, though not in wide scale. There was a calculated and conscious attempt by political party stalwarts to buy elections, to buy votes. They were engaging people, telling them that we'll give you 50,000 euros if you go and cast your vote for candidate A or B. And then when they went there, they took photographs of their voting slips. And then when you come with the voting slip, you show evidence of you voting for the candidate that they actually asked you to vote for. They will give you the 50,000 euros. There were a series of allegations in most of the centers in relation to that. That a number of unaccredited government officials using vehicles with no number plates bulldozed their way into some voting centers or stations.
The executive director of Legal Link, lawyer Rashid Doumbia, in his statement said, even though there were other by-elections in various parts of the country, the working group decided to monitor Constituency 110's election because it was the hottest and was seen as a test case.
Free, fair and credible elections in Sierra Leone. So we work together with other governments, MDAs, and also, of course, National Electoral Commission and other election management bodies. And we have done our monitoring for Constituency 110, so this report is specifically for Constituency 110, not...
The Civil Society Working Group on Election and Human Rights concluded its findings by stating general recommendations that the President appoint a 5th Commissioner of NEC to fulfill the constitutional requirements as enshrined in the 1991 Constitution of Sierra Leone. For Star TV News, Alhaji Wage reporting.
Residents and stakeholders of NJIANA, SEWAFE, NINEYANA, CHIEFDOM, Connaught District have called on the government of President Julius to improve their livelihood in the areas of agriculture, good school facilities, good road network, and with pipe-borne water. Judge Yotam takes up the story.
In order to strengthen the capacity of local communities through sustainable, equitable, and inclusive community-led socio-economic development intervention, residents and stakeholders of NJIANA, SEWAFE, NINEYANA, CHIEFDOM, Connaught District have called on the government and other non-governmental organizations to improve their livelihood in the areas of communication, road network, education, medical facilities, and safe drinking water supply. While speaking to Star Television in an interview, residents and stakeholders described their current condition as poor and marginalized and call on the government to address their livelihoods and economic needs, which are to promote, protect, and defend their fundamental right, create space for communities in which they will have the opportunity to participate and develop their full potentials.
Yeah, some of the constraints that they start with the first one. They couldn't read the parliament chief, they say, for now, the way things that happen and under this present government, first priority, education, with second education, with third education. So if you say that they will focus all day, then we try to do best. We get secondary schools, then we get other junior secondary schools. We get them small one, then schools where they train them small one. Then. Most of the problems we they face is really now how to make sure say they will begin the way they don't involve themselves. You know, so they don't get belly, so they don't get involved in other social activities. Why they not going to be left out? How to bring them kind of the mainstream for let them get education because they realize that education is going to them for can go before because there are a good number of them where them don't fall out of the way. But how for bring them kind in back, then we could happy with this quality education, free education, they come on board. The chiefdom don't set up the education committee. The health facility, the health promotion where the government they try for do with the benefit from them. We get with community health center. They will get about another one where they na the border and go town. So really, the chiefdom is big actually. We get the one where they at the main road. But if we say the government for let we want appeal for let them extend that the 3 community health centers we get or 4, let them add to them. Because you find out for say a lot of the people that are part of they take for go about 40 kilometers for Peru for let them go access even the basic something.
Yeah, really we need agriculture. We need for make government embarking on agriculture because the land where we get now, the lands them too empty and the lands them fertile. Where you dey work now plant anything without put fertilizer. So I think actually if government embark on agriculture, we will really happy.
What about the mining sector? Now one way don't improve on our life or now one way just left on our side Mitsuna?
Like I say, a mineral na a bad friend. Because if you look Kono, where you dey walk right around, make you see how Kono they be. We think cause that now the diamond and gold. The type diamond we come on at this chiefdom, we not do nothing for we. Except like we see right mining company and don't just come a new company, don't come at this chiefdom. We able build for we one room. We say now the chiefdom and other people they get workers them now at the place where they able to sustain their life. Okay. But mining actually me I not favor them too much. So
waiting you message where you want to send to Papa government?
But I need to tell Papa government say actually do with the big make them embarking on education and agriculture in this area.
Well, let's say if government will help with that side, they will get that light, will get water facility, then the road maintenance in, no problem, sir.
Okay. So what about hospital and other stuff, sir?
Well, hospital there, but the medicine side, the drugs.
You know the.
Okay. Medicine at the hospital, plenty.
Okay.
When I make the road for school, then you pay back by the education side.
The water business.
The education side back for school.
What about the hospital? Where unaki sick? Where unaki go?
The hospital is fine. Medicine no more than
medicine all the day. For Star News in Freetown, I am George Elliott Sam reporting.
The Ministry of Health and Sanitation and the Public Health National Emergency Operations Center has on Monday, December 14th, held a press conference on Sierra Leone's investigations of 3 suspected cases of polio infections in the country. Within the updates, the Health Education Manager, Harold Thomas, says the preliminary results from investigations of children manifesting weakness of the limbs, referred to as acute flaccid paralysis, have led to the isolation of 3 cases of poliovirus in KAMBIA, TONKOLILI, and Western Area Rural.
Press release for immediate release. Sierra Leone investigates 3 poliovirus cases. Isolates poliovirus type 2. Freetown, 14th December 2020. The Ministry of Health and Sanitation wishes to inform the general public that the preliminary results from the investigation of children manifesting weakness of the limbs, referred to as acute flaccid paralysis, have led to the isolation of 3 cases of poliomyelitis virus in KAMBIA, TONKOLILI, and Western Area Rural, respectively. Stool samples are routinely collected from children manifesting weakness of the limbs and tested in the laboratory to determine the cause and possible origin. Hence, routine samples collected in this process, including from a 26-month-old child that took ill with symptoms of acute flaccid paralysis AFP in Kambia were analyzed at the regional laboratory in Abidjan, and isolated poliovirus type 2 PV2 from the 3 samples. Further laboratory investigations are going on to determine whether the cases are due to the wild poliovirus or vaccine-derived poliovirus type 2. However, active case findings for additional ASP cases is continuing, and additional surveillance measures and community actions are ongoing, says Professor Dr. Alpha T. Wuri, Minister of Health and Sanitation. The Ministry of Health and Sanitation wishes to urge parents and caregivers to ensure that all children under 5 years receive all their immunization to protect them against vaccine-preventable disease, including polio. Sierra Leone, as part of the global polio eradication effort, continues to strengthen its routine immunization levels and disease surveillance in order to minimize the risk of and consequence of any potential polio reintroduction or re-emergence. Sierra Leone has not reported any confirmed polio case since 2010. Polio outbreak response action are required by the international health regulations and are being instituted by Sierra Leone health authorities with support from partners. The Ministry of Health and Sanitation has convened emergency meetings at the national level and the affected districts to review the event. Meanwhile, a national rapid response team, including Ministry of Health, WHO, APRT, has been deployed to commence in-depth investigation in the affected communities.
You're still watching Star News Bulletin on Star Television, Channel 21, with me, Alima Samora. The Ministry of Lands, together with its partners, have concluded a 2-day high-level roundtable discussion targeting parliamentarians on the draft of the Land Commission and Customary Land Bill. The notion of this roundtable dialogue is to emphasize the priority of the central government in the national land reform agenda. Our reporter Hassan Kurma was there and now reports.
The National Land Reform and Quality Service Delivery has been a top priority on the agenda of the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Country Planning, which aims at supporting the medium-term National Development Plan, which strongly argues for the implementation of the National Land Policy for Sierra Leone and the management and administration of land. During the process of popularizing the Model Land Commission Bill and the Model Land Commission, honorable members of Parliament representing different committees asked critical questions of clarification and verification so as to abreast with these bills before they are tabled in Parliament. The Deputy Mines Committee Chair, Honorable Rebecca Ye Kamara of Constituency 029, was concerned on how these bills could be domesticated, noting that the issue of land conflicts have long been in existence, especially in the midst of different land conflicts in the rural communities.
One first thing I want to ask, and it's a concern for me, because when setting up this commission, we have to take into consideration boundaries of towns, villages, districts, chiefdoms. Think of it. Presently, as we sit here, there are a lot of those cases out there. How does this document? We want to look into those cases before we go ahead with this, because as we sit here, all of us know in Sierra Leone, we really don't have a well-defined map that will really tell people that this is your boundary, this is where you stop. We still have cases between chiefdoms, between districts, that we still have to handle, because these are our customary places. Like, for example, between Kono and where you have the peace dam, how do they call it? The Big Congo dam. There is conflict there between Gorama Mende and the Kono districts. The stream or the fall is coming from one chiefdom and falling into another chiefdom. And there is a very big mineral here. So who will claim what? So as this idea of land commission is coming up, let us also think about this border and boundary conflict between villages, towns, districts, chiefdoms. Let us take that to consideration.
Honorable Reverend Horace Vincent, in his submission, questioned differences in the land rights between the western area urban and rural, which he said have been a disadvantage to some sets of people.
The system of land acquisition and that in the western urban and that of the rural is different. So I was trying to see how we can harmonize, if possible, harmonize both. And giving powers to land committees within the western urban, that was my concern. But now that it has been spelled clearly that such powers are not given to the western urban, I think I am okay, because looking at the situation of land grabbing, everybody coming, local authorities, everybody is a land minister now, right? So that was my concern. If this policy would also give such powers to those people, it's like giving them, it's a recipe for chaos. Yeah, so that was my concern.
In her presentation on key provisions of the draft National Land Commission Bill, the National Legal Consultant, Eleanor Thompson Esquire, stated that the key area of reform are the customary land tenure system, customary land administration and management, gender equality and rights of women, protection of livelihoods and environment, and responsible investment.
They're important because we currently, there's a lot of abuse currently when it comes to land issues and land administration. A lot of those who are land rights holders are not able to benefit from, use, make decisions about their land. And land is our most valuable asset. And so if we do not deal with land issues in a way that allows people to benefit but also protect their lands and the environment, we will continue to have conflicts, land conflicts that become bigger problems in society, and we will also continue to destroy our environment. We want development in Sierra Leone, of course, and our land is one of those sources of development. But we also want to make sure that development is responsible and does not come at the cost of people's rights.
The targeted parliamentary engagement aimed at further deepening the understanding of honorable members of parliament on key aspects of the land rights bills ahead of the parliamentary pre-legislative discussion. For Star News in Freetown, Hassan Koroma reporting.
The Legal Aid Board Sierra Leone has held an end-of-year planning workshop for staff of the board at the Atlantic Hall Stadium hostels on the 15th December. Yesi Hallowell has the details.
The Sierra Leone Legal Aid Board was formed with the responsibility to provide free legal aid services for the poor, including legal representation, advice, assistance, legal and community-based outreach, to name but a few. The mission of the Sierra Leone Legal Aid Board is to provide quality, accessible, credible and affordable legal aid services for the poor, including paralegal services. As part of their end-of-year activity, the Legal Aid Board has held a strategic planning meeting with its staff to discuss the way forward with regards to the activities they have embarked on, what they as a board have achieved, and what they are looking forward to achieve in the future. Whilst speaking on the occasion, the director of the Legal Aid Board, Fatmata Claire Carlton-Hansels, said that the board has been working tirelessly in executing their duties with regards to providing legal representation for accused persons in court. She further stated that staff of the Legal Aid Board should always put on the correct attire, they should have a good character, and above all, they should focus on keeping records of cases so as to have a proper documentation of the cases they have represented.
For instance, look at our data. When you go back to our data, how much are you recording? We have 383,000. I am sure we have given over 500,000. Not so. record it. You go into a community, you advise people, you walk away. You don't record it. You go into a police station, you advise all inmates, you don't record it. You go into a correction center, oh, I mean, just go visit no more. You don't record it. You go to court for the lawyers. You see people on the...
The legal manager of the Legal Aid Board, lawyer Cecilia Talker, in her statement, said that since the start of the year, they have represented over 5,000 accused persons in court level, offering legal assistance, legal advice to inmates in correctional centers and detained persons at the police stations. She went further to outline some of the challenges they face as lawyers.
Sometimes you send the paralegals, but as lawyers, if you want your work to be properly done, most times you go in the correctional centers and the police stations yourself as lawyers, and that's what we've been doing as lawyers. Before I go to the main crux of our work, which is representing accused persons at the court level. And at this stage, I would like to thank the lawyers because they've been doing tremendous work. And from the start of this year, from January to September, we've represented over 5,000 accused persons in court, just in court. And coming down from September up to now, we're still in the business of representing accused persons nationwide. From January to September, we've also had what we call special session. The judiciary calls it the special.
Audrey Williams, the Human Resource Manager and Legal Aid Counsel, said the annual end-of-year meeting is important to the Legal Aid Board as it brings together all staff of the board to plan for the following year.
It is an annual event. It is an event in which we come together, we measure what we have achieved throughout the year, and then we set out plans and targets for the next year. And it helps us to see where we have come from and where we will be moving on to in the next year. Because we face challenges. So we look at the challenges we faced the previous year, assess how far we have come, and then look at what challenges we might face and how we'll be able to tackle those challenges. We also use it to boost the morale of staff members, to let them know that even though they're in the provinces, they're not forgotten, they're still part of the Legal Aid Board. And we try to call them together so we can interact, know ourselves, because not all of the time we all can travel up country. So we come together, know ourselves, spend time together, and then we plan for the next year. Yes, it has been, because in this meeting, like I said, we set targets, we look at what our challenges are or what they have been, and try to map out a way forward to see how we can tackle those challenges so we'll be successful, and what we can do in order to motivate staff members, especially in the provinces. Like we said, we have quite a few challenges. We lack motorbikes, we lack mobility. There's so many things we lack in the Legal Aid Board. But we come together, we let them know that even though we lack these things, it should not stop us from working. We have to manage whatever little resources we have to achieve the targets we have set, and to let them understand that we don't work for ourselves, we work for the poor people, the indigents, and the only way we can have satisfaction is when we help these people, they get what they want, and then you yourself can get that immense satisfaction. The fact somebody tells you God bless you, it goes a long way in your life. We might not have all the money, we might not have all it takes, but we thank God. Like the ED said, we don't beg for our daily bread. And so we're happy whenever we come together, we're happy, we look at what we have achieved so far, we look at what we need to do to move further, and for us to go deeper into the provinces to establish the board. And so we're happy. It has been motivating, it has helped the board, and it continues to help the board.
A presentation on data collection, reporting and gap analysis, together with a short skit from the One Pot comedians, formed part of the occasion. Reporting for Star News, I am Yesi Ernest Hallowell.
And that's all we have in our Star News Bulletin for today. Many thanks for watching. Do continue to stay with us for the exciting programs coming up. I am Elima Samara.